Okay, well, what we could do for this particular topic is simply rerun Tom Morgan's original Oblivion Remastered review. Because guess what? We're looking at the 1.2 patch for Oblivion Remastered on consoles this week. Alex took a look at it on PC last week. And, well, here's the thing, right? When a patch comes along for a game that's got grievous performance issues, we're kind of looking for improvements, which is what Bethesda were promising. Now, last week we looked at the PC version, and the foundational issues, the foundational problems we had with the PC version, they were completely unchanged to the point where we weren't actually sure whether there were any sort of meaningful improvements at all. And Tom has actually done the legwork with Oblivion for the consoles, pretty much all the consoles here. And it's kind of like one of these things where you put the effort in with the sense that maybe we're not going to see any kind of return because it's the same. And yeah, unfortunately, that seems to be the case for this one. So, a video that we'd like to produce would be, Oblivion Remastered 1.2. There's big improvements here, but all of the issues, I mean, I'm going through the notes that Tom's made here. All of the issues seem to have manifested again in exactly the same way. Alex.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got the notes here from Tom. Do you want to go through them, or should I go through them?
Yeah, sure. So basically, Tom says that in the notes put out by Bethesda, there's almost like a promise of a reduced frequency of hitching. And Tom played the game here on PlayStation 5 Pro, and he prepared us footage of it. And he did similar runs to essentially what he did in his initial video. And that was one of the major things that he saw was still popping up now, specifically in the 60 FPS mode. It also applies to the 30 FPS mode, but we're concentrating on that 60 FPS mode and essentially running through the open terrain of the world when you cross any one of these grid cells that the game is divided up into, you see large frame time spikes. The exact same thing I see in the PC version, where there I didn't see actually any meaningful difference between the versions of the game launch and here. Tom sees the exact same thing on his side. And much like, so those are big spikes though, like Tom makes mention of them going up to around 240 milliseconds. That's higher than I saw on the high-end PC that I showed in my footage. And much like the PC version, it seems to, based upon CPU power, scale how large those spikes are going to be. And that's pretty atrocious, actually. Tom also makes mention here that, much like I saw in my 1.2 side-by-sides, there are moments where it runs differently in the new patch than the previous one. So it could be a little bit maybe faster in a moment in terms of raw frame rate. But then there's also moments where it could be neck and neck and or lower than the previous patch. It's kind of I would describe it as a crapshoot. Like you don't really have any really good sense that there is a consistent bettering of performance here or there in the new patch because it is inconsistent. And this is going to apply to all consoles, essentially. The second thing that Tom really wants to talk about here is in his initial coverage, one of the things that really complicated him covering the game was inexplicable visual and performance differences between plays, and where he thought actually, I'm seeing the difference between a patch here. No, the difference he was seeing was just bugs in the game that occur the longer you play it. And Tom, I feel bad for him that he has to waste his time doing it, but he did go play through the game and load up a bunch of saves in sequence to essentially see whether or not this behavior is still there. And he says, yes, it is still there. If you keep loading up multiple saves and then load up the same area again that you were at earlier, you're going to see massively depressed performance. He says within, I think it was like 20% lower performance or something like that when running through the exact same area again. And he also noted, even though the time of day settings might be similar on the load, because you're just loading up a previous save, for some reason there's really large visual differences in the game's lighting when you load up the save after having played up for long periods of time. So there's still that exact same inconsistency Tom talked about in his initial video covering the game, as well as the potential for crashing of the game after playing for extended periods of time and doing this loading behavior. So this all sounds really bad. especially the fact that much like the original games that were so problematic, at least on the PS3 side of things, with like performance degrading over time, or like John's covered in the past, the OG Xbox version of Morrowind, much of the same.
It's a long-term problem, isn't it?
Yeah, it's to see it happening here with all this memory available and all the CPU processing power, it's a real shame. And it really, the promises of the patch notes, they're not borne out, at least in Tom's and my analysis of the game as of current released patch. So this is baffling and sad at the same time. And I do wonder if you guys think that any of this is actually fixable, because I've gone through this so many times on PC where like Jedi Survivor, where I'm just like traumatized by having to cover that game.
There are certainly similarities with Jedi Survivor, because there are clips in Tom's bundle here where you're seeing iteratively better performance from the new patch versus the old one. I should couch that by saying that there are other clips where the new patch is worse than the old version, which kind of suggests just general inconsistency. But regardless, if we go back to Jedi Survivor, you had kind of like parallel lines on the graph, which suggested iterative improvements, but the overall instability wasn't changed at all, really. The lurching performance differentials, moment to moment, frame to frame almost in some regards, that was still there. So, to the human eye, it doesn't really present that much differently, even if the graphs are telling you otherwise. Inconsistency really is that much of a bugbear on the overall experience. So that's kind of what I'm seeing here. I mean, I've just got Tom's videos playing out on the secondary monitor to my left here, and I'm kind of just baffled at what I'm seeing generally, really. It's just really weird stuff. The thing that irks me significantly is the crashing and the memory leak, because Tom put in a huge amount of effort into actually trying to ascertain why the performance differentials were changing, how they were changing, why they were changing. And, finally he got there. And then, it does sort of indicate that the longer you play the game, the worse the performance is. That is kind of indicative of a memory leak. And the game is crashing, which is kind of like, especially in console land, a super no-no. And yet,
but that's just how these games are, though, Rich. Like Alex just noted, like this is just every one of their games on consoles. This is how they are, basically, right?
Yeah, from this era.
From this era, tech. Right? But this is it's Oblivion remastered. You expect to actually see some actual improvements from the original game if it had these noted
you expect,
issues.
But.
Look at what we're talking about here. There isn't a great track record for both studios where this is coming from. No offense.
I mean,
to
fundamentally,
Virtuous,
when you look at what these games are and how they work, like it's not surprising to me, honestly. Like the whole idea is that you can manipulate just about anything in the world, all these items, and the game has to track all that stuff. I mean, this stuff is like the enemy of a console. Right. The way Elder Scrolls works, right?
Yes.
I'm genuinely not sure that they can. I don't believe that they can actually fix this.
Well, look,
that's what I'm saying.
Tom's methodology was to basically rifle through. He loaded 20 saves in list order, and the 20th save caused a crash. Surely, when you're loading a new game, it should be flushing memory and kind of like resetting system status. Therefore, you shouldn't be seeing this. It should be a bug that's identifiable.
That's fair,
and fixable.
Yeah. That part's fair. But most of the other stuff, I don't know, man. It should be fixed, but I'm just not sure that it's possible.
I think that possibly the hitching side of things, because it's that's how it works, right? That's how the game works. But the bugs side of things, that's not great at all.
Performance degradation, I think, it's just a thing that you have to put up with.
As pathetic as that is,
it's unfortunate, but
yeah.
I mean, it's been around, and I think back to stuff like SimCity 2000 on Sega Saturn. I don't know if you ever saw that. That's taking a PC game, put it on a console, and it's like once you have a big city, it's like you're looking at about one frame every 2 seconds. after a while.
If you think back to the Xbox 360, it had 512 megabytes of RAM, and the Xbox Series X has like 12.5 gigabytes, 13 gigabytes of available memory to
But the
to
assets,
developers.
man, they ain't free.
That data, it ain't free, baby.
That data ain't free.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just annoyed by it because I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna enter the vicious cycle of them promising things in patch notes that we have to continuously check, and then say that it doesn't matter constantly. And I really dislike
imagine
this
being the
position.
guy working there that's being told to fix this.
Yeah.
Over and over, and he's just like, I don't know what to do.
There's 30 years of like problems wrapped up in this project. I don't know how to fix it. I feel bad for the people obviously working on this but I guess another big issue is this. There's no way this problem wasn't known about before the game was released.
Right. That's true.
And they still put it out anyway. And they're, that's where we are in this industry at this point. You just release the pretty broken product and then everyone buys it. So
right. I mean, the verdicts from Tom here, a big disappointment, and Oblivion fans are still waiting for a solution to a genuinely difficult game to play at times, with hitching intruding so much on the open world roaming. It's not the celebration of the Bethesda classic that we'd wished for, which is pretty much sums it up. Here's the thing, right, Alex? I mean, your test last week was kind of engineered to, because you'd highlighted the problems from a CPU perspective, right? So you basically produced a CPU intensive benchmark to identify the foundational problems. In console land, you can't do that, right? You're going to be looking at CPU and GPU just by virtue of the fact that you can't really change the settings or increase the performance of the hardware. And yet we get the same result, because I was kind of hoping, well, maybe they have improved the GPU side of things a bit, but it's completely inconclusive as to whether they are actually better or not. It's just totally bizarre.
Rich, I got to ask you though, like Digital Foundry first started up around 2007, I believe, in terms of doing this kind of coverage, right?
Mm.
Were you already doing this when the PS3 version of Oblivion hit? So I feel like that would have been super interesting.
We didn't look at it in extreme depth at the time. I think things really sort of came into focus with Skyrim, where there was actually a consumer backlash to what was happening on the PlayStation 3 version of the game, and where it was actually Tim Clark from the official PlayStation magazine said, hey, I've got a 65-hour save on PlayStation 5 you can use for testing. He sent it over. We checked it out, and lo and behold, it was not great, was it? It seemed to have run out of memory and then paged to the hard drive.
That's old school. We run out of memory.
That's
memory time.
And
so funny.
You could improve performance to a certain degree by switching to an SSD, which certainly in that time period was extremely expensive,
extravagant.
Solution to it. And it did help issues. But to be fair to Bethesda, they did actually produce a series of patches that did improve the outcomes there. Well, we're not seeing it with Oblivion Remastered, unfortunately, which is a bit of a shame, right? Mm-hmm. I'd love to go back to, I think we called it rim lag back in the day. And I really wish we still had the original data on archive, but we don't.
What I want to know, though, is our PCS3 or whatever the PlayStation 3 emulator on PC is called, is it accurate enough now to simulate rim lag?
Wow.
I was thinking about that exact same thing when Rich talked about it. That's so funny, John. That would be amazing. I don't know. Maybe it should be giving, I would hope they'd be giving the game more memory than it could possibly have, because you've covered it, John, and you've shown like massive increases of like resolution, for example. And I don't know how that would play into fake memory management.
Right. That's what I'm wondering. It's like, how are they doing? Like, if you're doing stuff external, like boosting resolution and stuff, they could allocate memory differently. But like in terms of what the game logic sees, like, I don't know. I'm curious. It'd be an interesting thing to try to emulate properly.
Wow. I mean, that would be pretty extreme stuff, wouldn't it? Okay. I think the message is please do better, because, this game was so eagerly awaited, and it was actually, it's really interesting to see the sort of the journey within our coverage, where we first of all played it on high-end PC, and you could actually enjoy the actual effort that went into the remastering to a certain extent. But then you start playing on a lower-end PC and things aren't looking great. Then you look at the console versions. Then we have the patch. And I do feel sorry for Tom, because he's put in, similar to you last week, Alex, he's put in a huge amount of effort to demonstrate that the foundational problems are still there. It's not great. And, well, we kind of expect better, right?
Well, Rich, a left field question for you then. Would you rather play a broken version of this or Mr. Bean for PlayStation 2? Just entitled Mr. Bean from Blast Software.
Well, this is extremely left field. I think based on the fact that, I'd need to be at gunpoint to be choosing either option, to be honest. I guess the thing about Mr. Bean is that I've got no idea of what it's about. So I could at least look at it for a minute and then presumably turn my head in disgust and go away and do something better.
Is Mr. Bean a PAL exclusive? I hope
Of
so.
course. European exclusive.
Oh,
Of course.
Makes it better.
Does it run at 50 frames per second?
I was about to say, yeah.
It does, yes.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Does it have a letterbox?
No.
PAL
It's full screen PAL, baby, all
Wow.
the way.
Oh, it's
they
high
put in-
res,
They
then.
put in the
good.
effort to optimize for PAL. Wow.
They put in the wrench time into Mr. Bean.
This is kind of nuts.
Is
Okay.
PAL the three-wheeled car of the
Yes.
of the console world? Yeah.
It is.
That was a good. I'm actually proud of that joke.
At some point,
Very good.
we're going to need to do a DF Direct special, which is just John Linneman whimsy, where you just come out with all of these bizarre questions that we just sort of
Well,
genuinely
if we do that, we got to get Audie Surley back on here.
Oh
too.
yeah, of course, yeah. What it would be without Audie?
Rich, he's like, oh no.
I've not taken a holiday in a very long time, but you're giving me a good excuse there. Alex can take over for that one.
I'd love to see Audie again, so that'd be great.
Me too.
And his collection of crap games.
Yes.
Okay.